Good afternoon. Given the nature of this town meeting, quote, the new Polytechnic, locally relevant, nationally competitive, globally recognized, it seems appropriate to provide a few glimpses into the activities of our speaker over the last year. We're all very proud of our president when she received the National Medal of Science from President Obama last May. We have enjoyed her prominence on the international stage, including at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland this year. And it was a special moment for our nation when the Smithsonian Institution opened the National Museum of African American History and Culture in September. And of course, there were several presidents there. The Albany Business Review Tech Awards were held in February, and our president was recognized with the Career Achievement in Technology Award. And if that were not enough, she's also a by the way, I hope we still have a CIO at this institution when I'm done with this. And if that were not enough, she also is a pop icon who received a shout out during a recent episode of the Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live. It is my privilege to ask all of you to join me in welcoming to the podium our president, the Honorable Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson.
That's right, Mr. Kolb, if I didn't love you so much. But anyway, you know you've arrived if you've been on Saturday Night Live, I guess, right? Well, welcome to everyone, and thank you for coming. And I offer my greetings to those of you at Hartford and those who are watching us online and around the globe. So it's good to have you here. So let me begin by introducing our leadership team. Let me start with the cabinet. Unfortunately, our provost is traveling and could not be with us, but we do have the Secretary of the Institute and General Counsel, Craig Cook. Our Vice President for Research and the Howard P. Eiserman Class of 42 Professor of Chemical and Biological Engineering, John Dordick. Our Vice President for Institute Advancement, Greg Easton. Vice President for Finance and Chief Financial Officer, Ginny Gregg. Vice President for Strategic Communications and External Relations, Richie Hunter. But the one who wins the length of title contest all the time, and still our CIO, our Vice President for Information Services and Technology and Chief Information Officer, John Kolb. And I don't know if he was able to make it. I think he may be a little busy, but Lee McElroy, who is our Associate Vice President and Director of Athletics. But we do have our Vice President for Human Resources, Curtis Powell. Our Vice President for Administration, Claude Rounds. Vice President for Enrollment Management, John Wexler. And one who's doing a yeoman's job, but he attends cabinet meetings on behalf of the Division of Student Life, Travis Apgar, who is our Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students. Travis. But let me introduce as well our deans, our academic deans. Dean of the Lally School of Management, Tom Begley. Dean of the School of Science, Kurt Brenneman. Dean of the School of Architecture, Evan Douglas. Dean of the School of Engineering, Shaker Gardy. Dean of the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, she wins that name contest, Mary Simone. Well, maybe not. Our Vice Provost and Dean of Undergraduate Education, Linda Shadler. Our Vice President and Dean of Graduate Education, Stan Dunn. And our new Dean of Academic and Administrative Affairs for Rensselaer at Hartford, Eric Krause. So when I arrived here at Rensselaer in 1999, we focused on transforming Rensselaer to live up to its legacy and to live up to its full potential in education and research. And with the Rensselaer Plan, We put in place a roadmap for that transformation that encompassed the people, the programs, the platforms, and the partnerships required to really move Rensselaer into the top tier of technological research universities with global reach and global impact. And when it came time to refresh that plan, a dozen years later, in anticipation of the 200th anniversary of our founding, with the Rensselaer Plan 2024, we had indeed been successful in transforming the Institute, and now we could focus on not only our internal impact, but on our external impact more strongly as well. And we have described that as being transformative in our research, in our teaching, and especially in our direct impact on our students in their lives. Now, to ensure that we remain and are even more locally relevant, nationally competitive, and globally recognized, we operate within an intellectual framework that we term the New Polytechnic. And within that framework, we remain focused on the greatest challenges the world faces. We feel that is a good way to organize our thinking and what we do. Challenges that you've heard me talk about before, such as climate change, humanity's food, water, and energy security, our need for resilient and sustainable infrastructure, and our national and global security. Now, these are challenges, as I've also said before, that cannot be addressed by a single person, no matter how brilliant that person may be, nor by someone working in a single sector or discipline or even geography. So what have we done? We have positioned Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute then as a great intergenerational crossroads where essential connections can be made to take on intricate and networked problems and to improve lives in what we do on a grand scale, beginning with the lives of those we educate. So 3 pillars then undergird this vision. First, the world-class interdisciplinary platforms that we have created here, such as the one in which we are residing at the moment, the Curtis R. Priam Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center. Our Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies, and our Center for Computational Innovations, which is primarily at the Tech Park. But second are extraordinary new tools and technologies, many of them being developed here in fields such as genomics and data science and data analytics and in cognitive and high-performance computing, to name a few, tools that have application in many disciplines that give us a new capacity to address complex challenges and ones that power the collaborations we seek. So we created the Rensselaer Institute for Data Explorations and Applications, or the Rensselaer IDEA, in recognition of the crucial role of data science and big data in driving new insights in every field. Now, the Rensselaer IDEA has provided, in fact, the impetus for yet a new partnership with our great partner, IBM, and it is called the Center for Health Empowerment by Analytics, Learning, and Semantics, or HEALS. We're nothing if we're not good with acronyms. And this will be directed by Rensselaer Professor Jim Hendler, who also heads the Rensselaer IDEA. And located here, the HEALS Center will be a 5-year, $20 million effort to prevent the progression of chronic diseases such as diabetes and hypertension through the application of the advanced cognitive computing capabilities of the Watson system, which, as you know, was developed at IBM under the leadership of a number of Rensselaer alumni. HEALS will bring together big data analytics, state-of-the-art machine learning, and the technologies of the semantic web to find insight into data from many different sources, including clinical data, lifestyle data provided by the patient, health or wellness data from mobile fitness tracking devices, and social network data from shared online activities. Now, the goal is to help individuals to understand their own health risks, as well as opportunities to improve their health, providing health information customized for their specific medical, environmental, and life situations. So, Dr. Lawrence, we're going to give you a lot to help you out. Now, the third factor undergirding our vision is our world-class faculty, which includes, at this point, 4 members of the National Academy of Engineering. We've had Professor Paul Chow, recently elected to the Academy. Yes, Joe Chow. There are 2 Chows, Professor Joe Chow. We have 3 members of the National Academy of Inventors and 1 member of the National Academy of Sciences. We have 176 fellows of professional and technical societies, 63 career award recipients, and numerous recipients of national and international awards. Our faculty members have done transformative work, often collaborating with each other, as well as with others outside of Rensselaer, and forging new ground at the interstices between and among disciplines, particularly within the Rensselaer signature thrusts in multidisciplinary research, ones we've been working out of and into for a number of years, in biotechnology and the life sciences, computational science and engineering, media, the arts, science and technology, energy, the environment and smart systems, and nanotechnology and advanced materials. So our faculty truly do take on the hard problems, and what I've described doesn't describe everything. But allow me to offer just one among many examples. Over recent decades, the number of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder has increased. And the current estimate is that 1.5% of children have autism or are along that spectrum. Well, there's a larger percentage along the spectrum. But nonetheless, we still understand frustratingly little about the physiology of the condition, so that it is diagnosed today primarily through behavioral observations. And it would be nice to be able to go beyond that, because the way it is diagnosed today makes an accurate diagnosis in small children, particularly in toddlers, difficult, and early intervention is very important. But now, a team led by Professor Jürgen Hahn of our Department of Biomedical Engineering, in fact, he heads the department, his team has developed the first physiological test for autism by applying a big data analysis technique to investigate the patterns of metabolites in blood samples. And in a clinical trial, the research team was able to classify whether an individual child has autism spectrum disorder with a high degree of accuracy. And we're talking accuracy, on the order of 96% or above, as well as to be able to predict the severity of certain autism-related symptoms. Now, this new understanding of the biomarkers that indicate autism spectrum disorder eventually may point the way towards the development of even better intervention and treatment options. I don't know if some of you saw Professor Hahn recently. He appeared on TV. When was it? About a week or so ago, over the weekend. And Professor Hahn now will expand this work to larger data sets and to younger populations. So Rensselaer is transformative and intends to be. And we intend to be transformative as well in the radically innovative methods that we use to teach future leaders. And so an example is our groundbreaking Mandarin project, which I've talked about before, which has used mixed reality and immersion, as well as a semester-long multiplayer game to teach the Mandarin Chinese language and culture. And it provides an excellent example of some of what we're about. Because now we are moving forward, using the Mandarin Project as a test of the intelligent, immersive classroom being developed in our Cognitive and Immersive Systems Laboratory, another partnership with IBM, which is creating smart situations rooms that interact with and anticipate the needs of its occupants to enhance group decision-making and learning. Now, within this classroom, we will deepen our students' language skills by asking them to complete a task within an immersive setting, ordering food, for example, from artificially intelligent cognitive agents in a restaurant. The task will allow students to practice both listening and speaking, and to participate in a multimodal narrative then that incorporates culture as well as language. Now, eventually, one of the great challenges of the Chinese language, and it is considered at the highest level of difficulty of languages to learn, one of the great challenges of the Chinese language, tones, or the fact that the same word said in a different pitch has a different meaning. And so those tones will be added to the basic task with multimodal feedback being given. And we're being greatly led and aided in this by Professor Wei Su, who leads the Cognitive and Immersive Systems Laboratory. Now, to encourage our faculty to incorporate new active and blended learning technologies and techniques into their teaching, we have created the Teaching and Learning Collaboratory, which Professor Linda Shadler has really driven, and which includes a faculty board that considers the cutting-edge pedagogical possibilities arising out of Rensselaer research and other new technologies, and that runs workshops for faculty, staff, and graduate students about teaching innovations. The resources of the collaboratory also include a well-equipped beta classroom located on the first floor of the Folsom Library that allows our faculty to pilot new technologies and pedagogical approaches. And if you've not visited it, I would suggest you go there. It's a beautiful space. Now, further expanding our pedagogical offerings, our School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences have essentially created the curriculum for a new Bachelor of Science in Music that will educate students for professional careers in music at the cutting edge, that will link music with science, technology, architectural acoustics, and electronic media. And we're awaiting our approvals, and then it will become a full-blown program. And we're leading the way with a transformation that I've talked about before, but it is a big one, a transformation of the academic calendar through the summer arch, which will have its first pilot this summer. And by the summer of 2019, all Rensselaer students will spend the summer after their sophomore year on campus in junior level classes so that they can spend one semester of the traditional junior year away. Now, the summer arch occurs at an important pivotal moment in a college career when our students move from an internal focus on success here, success at Rensselaer, to an external focus on the opportunities in the wider world while remaining connected to us. And as such, it is a natural evolution of class or clustered learning advocacy and support for students, which offers social support and intellectual opportunities through both residential and developmental clustering. The summer arch accomplishes both. As the only class on campus, our rising juniors during the summer will reside together in the quad and as a group become even closer with a common set of academic and pre-professional experiences. They will benefit as well from the full attention of their professors and our student life staff, as well as the recreational and cultural experiences that are found in the Capital Region only in the summer. In addition to their classes, They will engage in field trips to local companies, to museums, to local landmarks such as Lake George and the Erie Canal, and as well as having pop-up courses devised by our faculty. Let me digress for a moment. It's very interesting to read some of the history of Rensselaer, because what we're doing is almost like Back to the Future. Now, you know that our academic founder and first professor, Amos Eaton, had a fairly, what was for his time, radical approach to teaching young people, having real laboratory-based learning, and having students engage in the summers, actually, in pretty arduous field trips. And they would even take trips up and down the Hudson, gathering botanical and geologic samples. And guess what? They started at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, that is not our plan with the Summer Arch. But he felt that it was important for students to go out and not only do laboratory experiments on the campus, but to engage the real world, in this case, in a scientific sense. Now, as we have the students here, we will work to strengthen their bonds with each other and with Rensselaer before they do pivot to a broader exposure to the world during their away semester. Now, the opportunities for this time away will include internships with industry, both nearby and around the globe. We especially want them to go around the globe. It will incorporate research experiences abroad, both paid positions and as part of a credit-bearing course. There'll be internships at government laboratories and service learning positions in government and at not-for-profit enterprises, as well as the opportunity for budding entrepreneurs to launch their own businesses. So as Rensselaer seeks to be transformative in its research teaching and in its impact on our students, there are a few obstacles that we have to recognize. We face an uncertain environment for federal research funding, which has declined in recent years in inflation-adjusted terms and which appears likely to decline further under the current administration's proposed budget. There are even questions about federal financial aid programs. Now, let me tell you a little bit about things that kind of spin around and where there's sometimes more heat than light. You know, to accomplish the Rensselaer plan, we have borrowed, and the amount we borrowed to make much-needed capital investments and to achieve the overall goals of the Rensselaer plan were really in a total amount that was less than our endowment. But we also had to borrow to meet obligations under a legacy defined benefit pension plan, which had not been funded for 15 years before I came. And like other universities, we were impacted by the Great Recession. But because of our progress under the Rensselaer plan, we now are in a position to consolidate and to strengthen our balance sheet. And so we're focusing on accelerating the paydown of our long-term debt to achieve a crossover in the next 2 to 3 years so that our endowment, in fact, exceeds our debt. Now, we will accomplish this while continuing to make strategic investments and to meet the requirements of the defined benefit pension plans. Now, we're working hard in multiple ways to make the best use of our resources and to further strengthen our financial picture. And that includes fundraising. More about that shortly. But let me look ahead to what I know many of you come here to hear about, to the cost of attendance, beginning in the fall semester. Tuition for full-time undergraduate and graduate students will be $51,000 for the 2017-18 academic year. That represents an increase of about 3%, which is comparable to tuition increases at other universities. Now, that said, our financial aid budget will increase by about 5.5%, almost double that amount, from its current level. In fact, because of financial aid, the vast majority of our students do not pay full tuition. But we're also looking out for our graduate students because the minimum academic year stipend for graduate students will increase to $22,000. We increased it last year. And so that we are competitive with our peer institutions. And we're making an important investment in the off-campus commons by creating an off-campus commons as a physical space on 15th Street. Now, the building may not look like what you might expect on the outside, but wait till you see the inside. And this will open in May and offer our off-campus students a gathering spot. It'll be a place for class programming, and we will organize out of it a safe transit or a safe ride home service. Now, we also are adding teaching fellows to help with the expanded academic calendar under the summer arch and the larger classes that we are seeing, given the rising demand for Rensselaer education. And that, by the way, shows actually no signs of abating. We have had, you can give me the latest and greatest, John Wexler, nearly 19,500 applications to date. 19,452 is what they gave me. And that is those who are applying to our 2017 freshman class. And that's a new record and is up again from last year by 5%. In addition, hiring for tenured and tenure-track faculty will continue through the filling of endowed chairs, constellation professorships, and the development of new constellations. So I mentioned that I would come back to fundraising. On October 13th, during our reunion and homecoming weekend, we will launch a new capital campaign designed to increase our endowment, to support our marvelous students and faculty, and to ready us for our third century of discovery, innovation, and the education of young people ready to change the world. It will be an exciting and a watershed moment for Rensselaer. So while that is sinking in, let me share some exciting things, one of which we've already announced. On April the 11th, we will be visited by the Chief Justice of the United States, the Honorable John Roberts. And he and I will have in the Impact Concert Hall a fireside chat. And I think you'll find it quite interesting. He really does not visit universities, at least not very often. And so given what is much of what is going on the scene, including those things that involve our federal judiciary, and in fact, the Chief Justice is the Chief Justice of the United States. This is a legal government organization lesson. He is not the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, which is what people say. He de facto is that. But he is the Chief Justice of the United States. And what that means is he runs a multi-billion-dollar federal judiciary enterprise. And so you'll learn more about what he does as we go on. And so that will be April the 11th at 1 p.m. In the concert hall. And so I would love to see all of you and other students, faculty, and staff there. And now it is also my great pleasure to announce our honorary degree recipients and speakers for our commencement in May. First, we will welcome Dr. Roger Ferguson. Dr. Ferguson is the President and Chief Executive Officer of TIAA, the financial services firm that is a leading provider of retirement services. And Dr. Ferguson, a lawyer and an economist, that's what his PhD is in, by training, is the former vice chairman of the Board of Governors of the U.S. Federal Reserve System. In fact, it was he who led the immediate response of the Federal Reserve System to the 9/11 terrorist attacks in 2001. He's a very interesting man. We also will welcome Mr. Andrew Liveris, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Dow Chemical Company, which is expected soon to conclude a $130 billion merger with DuPont. Now, a chemical engineer by training, Mr. Liveris was born in Darwin, Australia, and educated at the University of Queensland in Brisbane. Now, he is interesting because we want to show our students what you do with degrees from here. He's a chemical engineer. He heads one of the largest enterprises on the planet and outside the tech industry, of course. And he's an immigrant. And both of these honorands will address our graduates at commencement. And finally, as our main commencement speaker, we will welcome Dr. Ernest Moniz, I call him Ernie, who is the Cecil and Ida Green Professor of Physics and Engineering Systems Emeritus at MIT and Special Advisor to the MIT President, as well as the co-chairman of the Board of Directors and the CEO of the Nuclear Threat Initiative. Now, Dr. Moniz, a theoretical nuclear physicist, as well as an expert on energy policy, served as the United States Secretary of Energy from 2013 to 2017. Now, among his many accomplishments in that role, he was key, one could almost say the key, in the negotiations with Iran that led to a comprehensive agreement to halt its nuclear weapons development program. Now, as some of you may know, some of you may not, the U.S. Department of Energy is the steward of all of our nuclear weapons that are not deployed by the military. And so I've known Dr. Moniz for decades. And it is going to be an interesting discussion because, you know, there are swirling opinions about the Iran nuclear agreement, but it is an important one. And so we anticipate a lively and thought-provoking discussion with these three guests at the President's Commencement Colloquy, which will be held on Friday, May the 19th at 3:30 p.m. here, again, in the Impact Concert Hall. I hope all of you will join us, and I hope our faculty will bring students here and think about what it would mean to have them here and be able to talk and ask questions of these three honorands as part of a parting educational experience for them, and then go to your graduation dinners.